Guys, welcome back to another Axel 72 video, and it's a pleasure to be joined by Rah Hokum. Rah, I messaged you a while ago for an interview, and it's a pleasure to now get you live from Riyadh right after the 5v5 and Bivol versus Zinad event. And first of all, how are we, mate?
I'm fab, thanks. Obviously, I was up all night because the event finished very late local time. I think it was about 4 a.m. nearly. So yeah, I was up all night. Got ripped off by the taxi to get home, as you do at major events. So yeah, I've been asleep all day. So yeah, pleasure to be finally speaking to you. So yeah, appreciate you having me on.
Of course. And for somebody who, gets around to a lot of events and isn't afraid to travel in the process and experience the different cultures and everything, I felt like it was appropriate to speak to you. And so we're going to run through the event, get your opinions on the fight, and I suppose in general, the concept of the 5v5. What did you make of that as a concept?
Oh, superb, isn't it? Cannot argue with it at all. The rivalries obviously adds that extra bit of spice to the whole event.
Mhm.
Um, Whether the fighters really care about Team Matchroom or Team Queensberry or not, I'm sure they probably don't. They're probably all out for their own wins, irrespective of the team aspect of it. But nevertheless, with the extra prize money and all of that. I'm sure all of the fighters were very happy to be part of it. They would have all got very well paid, and pretty much all of the fights had something serious at stake for all of their careers. So I think the concept's brilliant, great way to launch it. And my understanding is that if the rumours are believed,
Mhm.
Turkey Al-Sheikh has got a UK v USA 5v5, a USA v Mexico 5v5. I don't know if you've seen the rumors. Some of the talk is of it
Mhm.
being headlined by Crawford v Canelo, and guys like Shakur against Williams of Peter. I mean, it is utterly mouth watering, and it's not just fantasy. These guys, Riyadh season, they can make these events happen. So yeah, tremendous event, and yeah, I was very happy to have been present for it.
Indeed, and I suppose in general, like you say, the kind of team aspect maybe didn't mean too much, but was it nice to see the passion coming from at least Eddie and Frank?
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, it was funny seeing them
Mhm.
sort of at ringside, jumping up onto the ring apron, trying to urge their men on. That sort of thing was brilliant, and of course we've seen all the banter between them, like on social media and what have you. So all great laughs, and yeah, just all adds to the fun of the event.
Do you feel like the actual scoreline being so one-sided reflects the fighters that both Eddie and Frank have?
No, I mean, I one thing I'm skeptical about is whether it was truly random.
Okay.
I'm sure at some level behind the scenes there must have been some discussion about. I mean, for example, Matchroom have got a lot of fighters, say at flyweight or super flyweight.
Mhm.
If it was really just a choice of choose any weight class, then well, Queensbury wouldn't be able to match what Matchroom have got at super flyweight. So no, it isn't really reflective. I think Matchroom also they make a big deal about the fact that they're much more worldwide.
Yeah.
So they have got a lot more of their stable over in America, and probably therefore in weight classes which Queensbury haven't really delved into in any great depth. So I don't think it's a real reflection. Also, I think there was other factors. For example, the light heavyweight fight.
Mm.
I'm sure Anthony Yard must have been the first choice originally, but this dispute has since come about between Yard and Frank. So I guess he got dropped from it. Although it didn't matter in the end because his substitute Willie Hutchinson did the job anyway. So yeah.
And I suppose before we do speak about individual fights, did you think going into it, did you have a kind of a prediction? Did you think Matchroom or Queensberry?
Yeah, I think my predictions went 4-1 to Matchroom, so I got it very wrong. The one prediction I got right was Shiraz. Didn't expect him to win as conclusively as he did. I thought it'd go to points. Um, I mean, I suppose I did flip-flop on the Ball and Ford fight. Initially, I said I thought Nick Ball could get to him because I thought the weight making will affect Ford. But then when I saw him on the scales, I thought actually he doesn't look particularly drained. So I changed to Ford. So, but yeah, at best, I thought it'd be 3-2 to Matchroom. But as it turns out, we know what happened.
Mhm.
A clean sweep for Queensberry. So quite impressive in that sense. But like you said, it's not a real reflection of their stables, I don't think.
Mhm. Indeed, and so I suppose to start by talking about the first fight of the night, we had Willie Hutchinson versus Craig Richards, and Craig Richards seemed to very much underperform from what we're used to from him. But Willie Hutchinson, big stage, first kind of major time for him, and of course he managed to get the win. What did you make of that fight?
Yeah, I was very surprised how flat Craig looked in the first half of the fight. I know he's got a reputation for starting slow, um, but because of this needle that there's been between them, I don't know if you've seen how on social media there was a bit of a storm. There was talk of some racist comments being made, and Craig being really up to punish Hutchinson. But as it turns out, I don't think he really got into the fight till the was it the last third that we saw him really try and stick it on Hutchinson. By then, Hutchinson had built up quite a lead. I was surprised. I thought that thought he'd shown Hutchinson had previously shown his flaws with that sort of flashy, sort of amateurish style. And more importantly, I didn't think he'd had the proper step ups on the way up. I thought he'd been fed a whole load of hand-picked opponents to make him look good, um, as often prospects are. But he hadn't had a proper acid test, and but I guess Craig Richards was his acid test. That wasn't, if you get me, because like I said, Craig just looked so flat in the first half of the fight. Um, and yeah, give credit to Hutchinson when I think it was around the ninth and 10th round. He did stick it out, and yeah, he held his ground and made a fight of it even then. So I think he was. I think the scorecards were about right. So yeah, don't know what went wrong for Craig Richards there. He's 34. Is it maybe just a case of he left his career too late? I don't know. In time will tell. We'll have to see where Hutchinson goes now. Maybe Hutchinson actually is a lot better than we all thought. Um, one thing's for sure, I do hope Frank doesn't just start feeding him uh, another run of stiffs till a world title shot that comes up or whatever. I'd like to see him now get some proper contenders in as opponents. But yeah, time will tell for both of them as to how good they both really are. Uh, so yeah, but in terms of the fight scorecards, can't argue with them. Uh, so yeah, Hutchinson, well done to him. He can probably move on towards a world title. And serious question marks for Craig at 34. What does he do? Where does he go? Certainly not saying he should retire, but there's question marks. He'll have to answer those.
Mhm. Definitely, and I mean, there's a few question marks about a couple of fighters on this, and I suppose in general, when we move on to speaking about the Nick Ball fight, the scorecards, in my opinion, I didn't think that they were too controversial for this event. Like, I feel there has been definitely in recent times a lot worse ones, and do you agree with that?
Who for the Ball and Ford fight?
Yeah, and in general, the whole event.
Yeah, I've not seen anything particularly controversial about any of the scorecards for any of these Riyadh season events. I mean, even the Fury and Usyk fight a fortnight ago. I mean, I did have Usyk a clear winner, but I could easily see that maybe a couple of rounds were a bit doubtful. So I didn't think it was particularly controversial if they had it sort of 6-all or even 7-5 for Fury. But as it turns out, it didn't really affect the result because Usyk did win. And similarly with Ball and Ford, for sure, I think Ford certainly in the latter half of the fight, his cleaner punches, the quality was definitely better. But he was that first half of the fight, he was making the mistake, I think, of trying to slug it out with Ball. And even then, I think he did land more of the clean quality blows, but just the work rate of Ball, it's very reasonable, I thought, if judges were to have preferred the higher volume. Um, in that sense, maybe the weight cut did affect Ford. They couldn't maintain much of a work rate. I'm wondering if maybe that's why the first half of the fight he did just hold his feet. Maybe he thought his gas tank won't hold out if he moves too much. So yeah, I mean it was pretty much way for think was it 7-5 either way, wasn't it? That's how the judges had it. Um, so I thought perfectly reasonable scorecards. If you preferred the cleaner quality work from Ford, reasonable enough. If you preferred the relentless volume from Ball, also reasonable enough. This time, yeah, Ball got the rub of the green, and Ford didn't kick up too much of a fuss about it. So I think he, at some level, probably knew that his lack of output might have cost him.
Mm. Yeah, and I suppose from Nick Ball obviously being in two quite close world title fights, would you rather see him go and rematch Vargas, go rematch Ford, or go another venture?
Oh, Vargas for sure. I mean, Ford's already said that's it. He's going up to super featherweight. I think it was pretty much accepted he should have moved up to super featherweight anyway, because after he beat Kolmatov, he said, "That's my last fight."
Yeah.
I'm guessing, just like Joe Cordina a fortnight ago, the payday was just too good to turn down, and he took the risk. Didn't pay off. I don't think that this defeat will affect Ford particularly greatly in his career. I think we'll see him rejuvenated at super featherweight. And meanwhile, Ball, if they can get that rematch with Vargas, I'd like that. I don't personally, as a boxing purist, I don't like to see those loose ends just left hanging. But Vargas was with PBC, and unless Turki Al-Sheikh wants to put up another hefty payday to entice him over again, it'd be difficult to make that fight. So, but that's my preferred choice for Ball. And if they can't get that, then Lopez. That should be easy to make because Lopez is with Top Rank and they have a good relationship with Frank. So, yeah. I'll tell you what I don't want. What people keep talking about is putting Ball in with Warrington, Wood, Jazza Dickens, a lot of these domestic guys who I don't think can make featherweight anymore for a start. And at their ages, I mean, they're there just they'd be basically sort of meat for him to feed on. I think Ball's better than that. I don't think he needs to be particularly protected with a few paydays against aging former, stars. I think he can go straight in with other top ranked or other champions or top ranked contenders.
Mhm. Do you feel like the featherweight division is in an interesting position at the moment because there was, last year a few more bigger fights with the likes of Lee Wood and Josh Warrington, but now with quite a lot of fights moving up, now you hear Raymond Ford moving up as well. Like, do you feel like this featherweight division, until perhaps Anui comes up, it's not really got too many huge fights?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. You're right. It's in a bit of state of flux now. He said all the biggest names have moved up. I mean, Mauricio Lara, he moved up.
Yeah.
I'd imagine so because he failed to make weight in his first defence against Woods. So um, he was obviously a really exciting danger man, but he's gone. Yeah, there ain't really the big fights. I think there's decent fights. Um, Lopez and Vargas, two Mexicans. They're decent fights, not huge, of course. But like I said, I guess a lot of them, certainly Lopez has already alluded to, he's waiting for Inoue to come up. That's the man that brings the money down at those weight classes. But let's see. There's rumours that Inoue might come to Wembley in September. He said he's not rushing to featherweight yet, so I think he'll have at the very least one more defence of his undisputed title. It makes sense if it's against MJ. I think he's the next mandatory. So if he does that, I think after that would be the time to move up. So yeah, let's see. But you're right. It's not as stacked as it was a year ago.
Mhm. And I heard talks of like Inoue being rumoured to fight Bam Rodriguez at Wembley, but there is quite a big weight difference realistically between the two of them. Would you like that fight?
You know what? Yes and no. Because what Bam started at flyweight, Inoue started at light flyweight. So the thing is, I mean, in terms of actual size, I don't think Inoue's that much bigger than him. Got to remember, Bam Rodriguez is what, 22? So he's at an age that he's able to boil off a lot more weight. That's all it is. In terms of his actual sort of the natural size he settles at, he might not be that far off Inoue's size, but it's sort of really interesting. But I don't know. I just partially think the age gap and the size and the weight classes they're at the moment, it just doesn't seem like it'll align properly. Do you get me? Because super fighter, super bantam, that's what, three divisions.
Mhm.
So I think it'd be a shame if Bam missed out on doing a lot more at the divisions that he can still operate at.
Yeah.
So, super flyweight's still a really good division. So yeah, let's see how he gets on against Estrada. There's a couple other good fights there. Um, and then bantamweight. Before talking about super bantamweight, there's four Japanese champions there. Plenty of good fights at bantamweight. So I think it'd be a shame to sort of push him too quickly to sort of skip over divisions. So if he was to move through the weights correctly, then I think by the time he was ready to fight at the same size as Inoue, Inoue would probably be way past his best. So nah, I don't see it. I think that the ages just don't align properly.
No, I have to agree. And to go back to the 5v5, and I suppose we'll speak about the Bivol Zinad one next. Obviously, that was the next. Oh, wait, no, the Shiraz Williams one was the next one. So we'll speak about that one next. Shiraz
Yeah.
obviously going and getting a good performance, to be fair to him. This was a clear victory, and people were, rating Williams, and he was coming off an impressive stoppage and everything like that. And Shiraz, as team captain, had a lot of pressure on him to perform, and he definitely did that. And do you feel like this is a showing performance from him?
Yeah, definitely. Looking at what our colleagues on the Twitter sphere are saying, they're all impressed, like even including over in America, where it's hard to impress them if you're a Brit. Um, yeah, I did tip Hamza to win, but at the same time, I did expect him to have a crisis of some sort because Williams is probably the most explosive puncher he's fought. But both men hadn't really had their serious acid test as pros yet, so this was it for each other, and and it was appropriate because they're both young, unbeaten, in their prime, and on the way up. So it's not a case of the usual thing where you get, a former contender who's faded on the way down. Obviously, that's what Liam Williams was last time out, and so he didn't get to test Hamza the way he needs to be before he does actually step up to the real world level. And I did tip that maybe we'd see Hamza dropped or hurt at some point, and that he'd have to come through that. And that's exactly what happened. But he came through it more impressively than I thought, because I thought maybe once he's had a few rocky moments, he'd get behind that exceptional jab of his, play it safe, and then box his way to a decision. Um, we saw a couple of times in the second round he was rocked. He ate a pretty meaty left hand right on the chops, um, and obviously he had to sort of hold and just back off for the rest of the round. I think he took another one in the fourth, dealt with it the same way, but then after that, he started to move through the gears and didn't just get behind his jab. Yeah, that jab of his did obviously bust Williams up and closed his eye, but he also started to unload more and more power shots. So just all round, I think it was everything, of a coming out party for Hamza, you know, coming through the adversity, getting hurt, keeping his composure, building the momentum, and then eventually, when he was fully in control, closing the show conclusively with a big stoppage. So yeah, very impressive stuff from Hamza, and yeah, he could be a superstar. Like we were talking off camera about how he probably had the noisiest support in the arena. I believe he's of Pakistan descent himself. Um, I think they should really be marketing him to that part of the world. In the past, Amir Khan got a lot of support, and that's why Khan was actually a big draw through a lot of his career. Even in America, he regularly got big fights because he probably sold a lot in Pakistan and the Middle East. So I think Hamza, I think they've missed a trick with him so far in that regards, because here in Riyadh and the Emirates, there are a lot of Pakistani expat workers. So if he'd been marketed properly, uh, I think they could have filled out the arena just with his, supporters coming out to watch him. So yeah, he has the potential to be quite a big star. Um, done what he needs to in the ring. Obviously, he's now the WBC mandatory for Adames, who is a considerable step up. Make no mistake, this isn't a shoe-in win for Hamza. But one thing about Hamza, him and his team, they're very stoic. I don't think Hamza's going to get carried away with himself. He will go away with Ricky Funes. They'll look at what Adames brings, and they'll understand fully that, yeah, this is a level up again. So we've got to improve even more. So I think they'll do that. If that fight's next, I know after the fight he said he wants Chris Eubank Jr., which is obviously a big money fight. But Eubank seems to have disappeared off the scene. We don't know if he wants to fight again or he's just going to look for a particular type of opponent. We don't know, but presuming that fight doesn't happen, yeah, I'd like to see Hamza fight Adames in London. And the way Frank Warren's backing him, I do think that they will quite easily win a purse bid and get Hamza home advantage, or have it in Riyadh again, Riyadh season, where again, like I said, he'll have more support in Riyadh than Adames will, so it'll be practically a home fight for him. So let's see how that goes. But yeah, he could be a big star coming up.
Mhm. Definitely, I have to agree. I feel like, yeah, that I do have a timer, so we might have to jump onto a different Zoom call in a minute if that's okay. I'm trying not to take up too much more of your time. But we'll move on to the Bivol Zinad fight, and that, as obviously the Beterbiev fight was meant to be the main event, and it was a shame to not see that come and be a thing. But Zinad seemingly came in, put an all right enough account of himself, and I mean, His Excellency said he will have him back again. And in general, Bivol, it was a shutout victory. Is that what you wanted to see from him?
Yeah, listen, I was actually not looking forward to that fight because I thought, here we go, it's going to be Bivol remaining in first gear, and then just popping his 1-2 out. Um, yeah, it would be a glorified sparring session. We know what Bivol's like. He fights in as low a gear as he can get away with, and unfortunately, because virtually everyone in the division is that far below him, he rarely gets out of first or second gear. But I wonder if I don't know if you saw, was it in the fourth round where Zinad tried to go head to head with him at
Yeah,
the end of the round? I wonder if that annoyed Bivol enough that he decided, all right, for once I'm going to move up to third gear. Because when he felt like it, he got him out of there fairly easily. So yeah, not much to say. I don't think that tells us anything that we didn't know about Bivol. Um, and yeah, it just goes to show. I mean, Zinad, I think he was the mandatory for the IBF belt, so he should consider himself lucky that he got Bivol rather than Beterbiev. um, so yeah, how good he actually is, I don't know. Based on that, I think the rest of the division will be happy when Bivol and Beterbiev settle matters and hopefully move on. But if it's Bivol who wins, not they're not big or powerful enough to operate at cruiserweight. So yeah, the division after the Bivol Beterbiev undisputed fight in October, I wouldn't be surprised if the division becomes quite dull.
mm,
So yeah, only good thing about that fight I think is Bivol spared us staying up till 5 a.m. rather than 4 a.m.
mhm. No, I agree. I really apologize for any background noise. I'm sure that you probably did hear some. I apologize for that. Um, but yeah, no, I completely agree with what you're saying. And in general, it was just nice to see. It'll be intriguing to see where the Bivol Batavia fight does, the aftermath does lead. Of course, we might see a rematch, but other than that, there isn't, like you said, many two bigger options. You know, there's talks about Opataya as a opponent. Would you be intrigued for that for Bivol?
Yeah, but Opataya, from speaking to him several times now, he's got his own ideas clearly about what he wants to do. That's clean up at cruiserweight and um, and then move on maybe to bridgerweight and then certainly heavyweight. But actually, I've had on second thoughts, light heavyweight might actually start to get interesting because a lot of these super middleweights who have got tired of waiting for Canelo are coming up.
Yeah.
So we've seen, I think Benavidez is fighting Vodzik
Yeah.
for is it the mandatory for the WBC title? I mean, that's intriguing for sure, very intriguing. And I heard David Morrell is fighting a regular against Radu Vojic, I think is how you say his name. But again, he's someone that Beterbiev made light work of a while ago. But I guess seeing how Morel does against him might give us an indication of how those guys will fare against Bivol or Beterbiev. So yeah, maybe it's not going to be as dull as I thought if some of them super weights come through. But let's see how that plays out.
Mhm. Indeed, and I feel like now is probably the best time to jump onto another Zoom. And so now I'm gonna go start speaking about the two heavyweight fights and Dubois Hrgovic. It was a it was a good performance from Dubois. It showed his heart again, which is another performance where he done that, and he does seem to be a bit of more of a rejuvenated type fighter now. Hrgovic, I kind of always said that he was a bit predictable with just them straight two shots, which he loves to throw, and he kind of got exposed for doing that. Do you feel like Dubois is this new kind of there's this new coming of him now?
Oh yeah, absolutely. He's got to be one of the most improved fighters in the past year or so. I actually tipped Hrgovic to win,
Okay.
um, and I get absolutely what you say. He has looked limited.
Mm-hmm.
However, I I guess I gave him the benefit of the doubt that I guess I bought into the bogeyman image that he's sort of built for himself, with his sort of stern demeanour and the fact that when he was mandatory, none of the other top contenders wanted to take him on. He had that unimpressive performance against Zhang. But then, he just lost his father. And so I thought, okay, he's mentally weren't right. Then he had that fight against, Dempsey McKean. Again, he looked flat. But then I thought, okay, is he another Bivol that he just stays in low gear until he has to fight, above himself? And as for the Mark Demori, forget that. That's just a walking punch bag for him. So yeah, I guess I did buy into his bogeyman image, and also the fact that he does have such a good chin, which he showed against Zhang. I thought, well, Daniel wasn't going to put a dent in him, and as a result, I think when Daniel wouldn't be able to knock him out, Hrgović would carry on just chipping away and get the decision. But yeah, we didn't bank on the cuts. Now, a lot of my colleagues say that the cuts were caused by a head clash, but as far as I recall, no one in Hrgovic's corner called it. There was no complaints when the fight was stopped, because if it was caused by a clash of heads, then when the doctor said it has to be stopped, it should have gone to the scorecards for a technical decision. But it counted just as an out-and-out stoppage defeat. That was suggests to me the referee thought the cut was caused by a punch. So fair play to Daniel, very impressive. All the talk of that he doesn't have no heart and that he quit, there's no sign of that. He ate a lot of big right hands in the first couple of rounds. There was no sign of him then becoming hesitant or gun shy or going into his shell. He started to show a few different moves as well, like a bit more head movement, for example. And for such a sort of muscular guy, didn't seem to gas it. So all round, he's really come on. And it was interesting, again, to see his dad up on the ring apron yelling orders. Sounds strange, but it seems maybe that was the missing ingredient all along. Our colleague, Boxing Beats and Rhymes, he was the first to mention this after Daniel lost to Usyk. That I don't know whether he knows Daniel or what, but he said something to the effect of, if his father is the only one that can get through to him in crisis moments, does his team need to find a way of getting his dad in the corner? And sure enough, last time out against Big Baby Miller, Frank Warren famously, after the 4 rounds, did tell his dad, you go and stand by the corner and shout your instructions. And Daniel himself alluded to it after the fight, that, yeah, just when I thought I was feeling tired, I heard my dad telling me off, and I knew I had to go to work. So it seems, for whatever reason, it's not unusual. Sometimes people who've got a pushy father, they end up only not being able to respond to anyone but that authority figure. But yeah, with his dad barking orders in the corner, absolutely no sign of any of those mental frailties he's shown in the past. So you look at his age; he's 26. He's 11 years younger than Usyk. That's the undisputed champion. He's now got the IBF interim title. Personally, I hate interim titles and regular titles. However, at the same time, I do find these aging champions like Usyk, like Beterbiev, they've got all the belts, but they're so injury prone. They hop up the whole division. So Hrgović waited a long, long time for his chance. So this is a rare occasion where I think an interim title of some sort does help grease the wheels. Listen, none of us are going to say that Daniel is really a world champion. We know the heavyweight champion is Alexander Usyk. But this rightfully puts him right back to the top of the queue. And yeah, I mean, he's got a great future ahead of him. I think he will be one of the top players in the division now for the next 4 or 5 years at least. So yeah, those two defeats will probably be long distant memories.
No, definitely. And I suppose, would you like to see him versus Joshua next?
Mm, yeah, I would like it. I wouldn't say it was my first choice.
Okay.
Um, I mean, I suppose in a way, I wanted Joshua and Wilder because I think there is almost a generational thing here. Um, Joshua and Wilder were, you know, at the height of their powers at the same time. Wilder, I mean, that defeat, which I'm sure we're going to come to, I guess Wilder's out of the picture now for good. But then Zhang, I think, is suitable as a replacement because he's still one of the top heavyweights. And again, he's of the same generation. He lost to Joshua at the 2012 Olympics, which launched Joshua's career. So they're of the same generation. Whereas I think Daniel, he's still the next crop upcoming, if you get me, even though he's already fought the top guy around at the moment. So I guess I would prefer Daniel fight someone like Jared Anderson. One of the other sort of mid-tier contenders that are upcoming, or someone like McCauley even. Again, someone who's only sort of really got onto the scene in the last, the top of the scene, just relatively recently. So that's who I'd like. As for Hrgovic, it's a long way back because nobody wanted to fight him before. He's not marketable by his own admission. That's why it's taken him so long to get a chance. He's not marketable. Doesn't do much to market himself, and now he's lost his bogey round status. So I don't know. He said if he can't beat Dubois, he's going to retire. I'll be very surprised if he does do that. I mean, he is still a top heavyweight. Don't get it wrong. He's not become bad overnight, but it's going to be hard for him. He's going to have to, I guess, he's going to have to accept some serious B-side conditions to fight anyone. So, if he still wants to.
Of course, and we'll speak about the messy heavyweight scene and how it's become a lot more interesting. Now we speak about the main event, and of course Wilder versus Zhang. Zhang and Wilder, to be fair, they were both coming off quite lackluster performances. It wasn't really. I suppose it was expected to be interesting, but we were just more intrigued to see if the old Wilder could come back. And again, it doesn't seem like that was the case at all. Wilder seems like it probably might be the end of him now. And do you, I suppose, first of all, think that it is the end of Wilder, and second of all, do you feel like Zhang is a world top class heavyweight that's going to remain around for a little bit?
Yeah, because it's 41, it will be a little bit. So literally, what, 2 or 3 more big fights, if that. Yes, I think Zhang. I think we all know his flaws. We know he is technically very good because he's an Olympic bronze medalist. He's been a very accomplished amateur. Stayed in the amateurs too long, but I think that's why he's only reached the top of the pro game so late at the age of 40, and now his gas tank is not going to hold up as you'd expect of a 40-year-old athlete. I think it was Dave Coldwell who said if world championship fights were 6 rounds, Zhang would probably be the top heavyweight in the world, but unfortunately they're not. So I think he can still be in some very intriguing fights. He'll be super dangerous for 6 rounds, and then the top heavyweights, unless they've got dodgy gas tanks themselves, they can then run away with the fight in the second half of the fight. But let's see who they match him with. Like I said, he's very dangerous for Anthony Joshua. Um, uh, at this point, I think Joshua's learned enough to know how to ride out the 6 rounds, stay out of danger, and then uh, run away with it and stop him late, which is what I predicted Wilder would be able to, would do, and it turns out he couldn't. Once again, Wilder, I guess he went for broke or got overexcited, left himself open, and I guess his punch resistance isn't what it was either. After 2 batterings against Fury, not surprisingly. I think it's fair to say, yeah, Wilder, from the looks of it, didn't have anything left to compete at the top level. I thought that although Zhang is so dangerous as a puncher, I thought this is the right fight for him, because if he has lost half a step in terms of getting his right hand off, well, Zhang being a big, slow, plodding heavyweight, although technically good, and one who gasses out in the second half of the fight, well, this is the sort of guy that you know exactly what you've got to do with. There's not particularly a great puzzle there. I thought, Wilder, okay, stay out of range for 6 rounds. And in the second half, looked to land that right hand, but you couldn't even get to the 6th round. So, yeah, unfortunately, I think that is the end of Wilder as a top-level fighter. We know in this game, fighters always try and stay on and fight way beyond the time they should. I'd like to think Wilder's made enough money and has mentally no desire to still be in it. Seems like he said he's got other interests. He wants to do acting. He's recorded a single, and so he's got other interests. So in some ways, that's probably a good sign, because it might mean he can be at peace with himself and leave the game. I think it's those fighters who don't have any interest outside of boxing. They're the ones that can't leave it alone, and they'll just keep coming back. So yeah, unfortunate, but I'm sure we all know every fighter this day will come when their time's up. That time's come for Wilder, unfortunately.
I have to agree. Well, Ryan, this has been a lot messier than I thought it would be, to be completely honest. But I really appreciate your time again, mate. And hopefully I'll see you at an event soon, and possibly we could do another catch up like this after another huge event.
Absolutely, look forward to it. Keep up the good work, Alex.
I appreciate it a lot, mate. I appreciate your support in general throughout what I've been doing. And yeah, thank you very much. And if you're new around here and you haven't yet subscribed, please do so. Like the video if you did indeed like the video. And thanks for watching.